You're listening to the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WYPC.
WCYTV
Here on the Daily Signal.
Good evening and welcome to the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated and first on 93 WYBC out of Indianapolis. Wherever you're joining us from this evening, whether it's on radio, TV, through our syndication network, our live stream partners on YouTube, X, and Rumble. I better make sure my phone is shut off so that I don't end up like that reporter that Trump booted from the White House Oval Office today. We're really glad that you're here. We have a few developing stories we need to get you up to date on. Kilmar Abrego Garcia, lovingly referred to as the definitely honest legacy media as Maryland man. Well, he's had quite a exciting history. See, he came into the United States illegally several times, and then he abused his wife, according to court documents. He participated in human trafficking, was caught by the Tennessee Highway Authority. The Biden administration ordered the Tennessee Highway Authority to let the man go. Then the guy endangered children, not his own, and then was involved in a number of other things until finally in the Trump administration, he was arrested and then was deported back to his home country of El Salvador. And the media lost their minds. The senator of Maryland, Chris Van Hollen, then went down to El Salvador and sat down to drinks. He says it was only water. There was a photo op. They placed margaritas next to him, LOL. And there was a whole lot of chaos. His wife got on social media, started posting pictures of Kilmar, putting emojis over his knuckles so that no one saw the MS-13 symbology on there. That, again, according to federal databases outside of the Trump administration, were well-known symbols for MS-13. Then he made his way back to the country because the United States made an official request to El Salvador saying, we want to prosecute this guy for a couple of other things and deport him somewhere else. Also, perhaps an eternal court battle over this may not be the best way to spend the administration. So they shipped him on home. And then they said, all right, now he's here. We're going to slap an order on him and send him somewhere else. And I can only imagine that Marco Rubio in the State Department, there's a big circle on the wall, like a Wheel of Fortune wheel, and he spun it. And so for the last month, that wheel has been spinning, and it finally slowed down, click, 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 to Uganda. That's where Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the wife-beating MS-13 human trafficker, who, according to the Department of Justice evidence, also solicited child pornography, again, just a Maryland man, was going to be given the boot to Uganda. And, well, it appears that Kilmar Abrego Garcia, in all of his, I don't know what you want to call it, just way that he charmed the media, also charmed Obama-era Judge Paula Xinis, who today filed an order blocking the Department of Homeland Security from deporting Kilmar Abrego Garcia to Uganda. Why? Because he doesn't speak the language in Uganda. Now, that's really freaking funny for a couple of reasons, but I'm going to walk you through it. They did a little rally for Kilmar, a little get-together, a little shindig. And I want you to see if you can pay attention real close here. Let's see if we can actually get this clip up. Here is Kilmar addressing the crowd. What do you notice?
Un milagro, gracias a Dios y gracias a toda la comunidad.
This was a miracle. Thank you to God and thank you to the community power.
Okay. He goes on like that for a while, and then you'll hear this lady that's translating. Now, if you're addressing an American crowd, why not simply speak English? Oh, he doesn't speak the language. So let me get this straight. He's allowed to be here, violating the law, beating his wife, violating the law, human trafficking, violating the law, soliciting child pornographic images. Dear Lord. But man, I tell you what, don't deport him to Uganda. So the petition for the writ of habeas corpus by Kilmar Abrego Garcia's attorney says that he expresses fear of persecution and torture in Uganda. I'm sorry. I just want to ask, does MS-13 have a presence in Uganda? Because if so, that is one multicultural, multinational organization. Gee, wow. How about that? But I digress. Kilmar then did earlier today finally go and turn himself in. So here Kilmar is crying, giving a hug to the woman that he beat with his MS-13 tattooed knuckles. before he, again, turned himself into Immigration, Customs, and Enforcement. So for those who are watching, or those who are listening, he's kissing him. It's a heart-filled moment. You can tell it's a heart-filled moment because all of these like old white women have their phones out and are recording him. Just an all-around, little emotional moment. Oh, he's getting ready to turn himself in.
Tony.
Yeah.
I did feel pretty poorly that there was no audio included in this clip that I found, so I decided to add some myself.
Is that why there's like a little post-it note next to clip 4?
Yeah, just,
okay.
Play it for me.
I'm nervous. Okay, that was good. That was pretty good. My heart will go on. The recorder meme. That's pretty good. I'm liking it. All right, so moving right along here. By the way, the rally then desisted into the most powerful form of Democrat protest known to man. No, not burning down Minneapolis. We'll get to that. No, not forcing children to sit on the lap of a man in lingerie. They saved that for during the school year. Well, I guess it is back during the school year. Keep an eye out for that in Minnesota, but we're not in Minnesota. They united in song, and so they wrote a little tune about standing with Kilmar.
Kilmar is our neighbor. You can't have him Trump. No!
Okay, so all of those who are, getting down, you're on the radio, you're probably driving home right now, 465, you're hearing the fun tunes from this hip group of old white women. It's always old white. I love it. Anyway, they're in bright pink, high vision, like reflective work vests that look like they're too thin to actually be used. So I'm just going to point out if they're not like actual real high vis, like utility vests for construction sites, that's for a stripper supply company. So you have Democrats dancing in likely stripper supply company pink vests chanting, "We are your neighbor, Kilmar."
Behind a poster.
Yes, behind a poster. I'm so sorry, I forgot that part. Behind a poster that just says "Free Kilmar."
Our neighbor, you can't have him Trump. No! Kilmar is our neighbor. You can't have him Trump.
I love it. I love it. I tell you what, that'll start a fiesta in any good household. And I would be remiss if I didn't point out that this has been a key, important, critical strategy of the left this entire administration. I bring you, in case you forgot, lest we forget, which side are you on about Elon Musk?
Oh, which side are you on? Which side are you on? Tell me, which side are you on? Which side are you on? We'll fight against George. We'll fight Elon Musk. No Elon scab within our walls. We'll fight from dawn to dusk.
I love it. I tell you what, the era of barbershop quartets may be coming back because the melodious tones and harmonies out of that is just spectacular. Amazing stuff. Now, I do want to point out that the Trump administration has noticed the revised excitement over Kilmar, and I do believe it made it to the White House today. So let's hear what Trump had to say on that one.
Today, MS-13 gangbanger and human trafficker Kilmar Abrego Garcia turned himself into ICE in Baltimore. Do you have any comment on this? And why are the Democrats so emotionally attached to this man who beats his wife and is part of a terrorist organization?
Because they think he's going to be good for votes, and I think he's very bad for votes. These people are deranged. He's not good for votes. He beat the hell out of his wife. His wife is afraid to even talk about him. She's been mauled by this animal. And, through a system of liberal courts, he's doing things. But, no, we have that under control. And Pam has got that very much under control. Do you want?
I will point out, due to one of the excellent comments by Dennis over on the YouTube live stream, Uganda, in fact, speaks English. So if Kilmar spoke English, he'd have nothing to worry about there. LOL. All right, radio crew, we have to send you over to commercial. We'll bring you guys back in a minute, continue over on the live stream. It's the Tony Kinnett cast here on the Daily Signal. Now, in the midst of all of this, there are several states that are pushing forward a couple of excellent strategies on immigration. One of these is, of course, Florida, who now, after, again, the horrible series of accidents, not just the ones you've seen in the national news, by illegal immigrants who do not speak English, who are driving massive semi-trucks down the road, who are a threat to health and safety, now they have started putting at all way stations in Florida immigration, customs, and enforcement, and it is absolutely stellar. Check it out.
But today, Florida's Attorney General is going to announce that all the trucking way stations in the state of Florida will now serve as immigration checkpoints.
Great idea. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great idea. And by the way, I also think we should find out who gave him his road test, who green-lighted it.
So I will point out the lefts are already giving themselves a coronary over this particular move. So they have suggested that it's anti-American. No, in fact, making sure that only citizens are driving heavy equipment that has killed Americans is, kind of a good thing to make sure, you're doing it right. Just saying, might not be a bad idea. He says it's a violation of the Fourth Amendment. That's not how the Fourth Amendment works. Detainment without probable cause is not a thing. If you are on the interstate and there is suspicion that you might be violating the law, you are allowed to be detained. And by the way, at a way station, to check someone's ID is not detainment without probable cause. It's one of the many purposes of the way station. Just because your state out there in the wild blue yonder doesn't have officers or workers at way stations or checkpoints, I'm sorry that your state sucks at staffing. I mean, that's just not my problem. Also, deprivation of rights under the color of law, that doesn't mean anything. Somebody Googled that. But that's one of the trending terms. Obstructing commerce. I'm sorry, but saying you can't have slaves picking the cotton is not obstruction of commerce. It's just not. Oh no, I can't use really cheap labor that's illegal, that doesn't pay the right taxes and gets me out of all other kinds of stuff, not to mention OSHA. Oh man, that's obstruction of commerce. No, not even close.
Also, the bare minimum of the removal of people who cannot read English, aka the road signs. Oh, you can't make me fire my rocket scientist who can't do math. It's improper.
Again, the way that the left is going to chain themselves to this is truly incredible. For example, from the New York Times a few hours ago, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the immigrant who the U.S. wrongfully deported, to El Salvador, his home country, was taken into ICE custody on Monday, his lawyer said, after the Trump administration indicated it planned to deport him again, this time to Uganda. Ilhan Omar, famous for marrying her brother, she quoted this saying, ICE is beyond reform and should be abolished. Again, Ilhan Omar, I love it. The Democrats have decided that this is where they're going to set up camp. This is the place. These are the hills to die on. And I wish that I could tell you that there are parts of the Democrat Party that are kind of trying to moderate, but even the guys who are more laid back, who used to be more, again, friendly with the things across the aisle, like, for example, Wes Moore of Maryland, Andy Beshear of Kentucky, Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania, even those dudes are now stepping just off the cliff and falling down and hitting every stupid, woke, LGBTQ plus, illegal immigrant, migrant crime branch on the way down. And it's hilarious to watch. It is, because if you're going to go stupid, you should at least suffer the consequences for being stupid. And they're seeing this right now. But that brings us to the Democrat National Committee summer meeting. Believe it or not, is a leading headline of the day, because while many of the other shows this evening, they're not going to have time to throw in some of the more spicy clips from this afternoon. Boy, do we have your back. So we got to bring the radio crew back from commercial. Don't go anywhere. You're not going to want to miss Tim Walz getting back out. It's chorus girl kick time again. Let's go. No camo hat this time. Trust me, it's not needed. Tony Kinnett cast here on the Daily Signal.
This is the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC. All
right, it's strategy time, ladies and gentlemen. The big DNC summer meeting where they essentially decide who and who does not get to be the first state runner-up in the Democrat electoral primary in the next couple of years, right? The Democrats are starting to decide what road they are going to take. And they've learned, one could say there were lessons the Democrats could learn over the last election cycle. There are lessons that they might have learned since then about LGBTQ plus 2IA, about the illegal immigrant crime love fest that they have got going on, about crime in the cities in general, about international trade, about all of these wild policies that they continue to push every single day. And instead of, coming to the table and saying, all right, we've had our awkward teenage phase, we're ready to be adults. Instead, the Democrats decided that it's time to kick off their major Minneapolis super duper fest, again, amid the lowest recorded approval ratings for the Democrat Party in history, in all of United States polling history. There has never been a lower general approval rating for the party than right now. So, of course, what do? They start, Ken Martin, the leader of the DNC, starts by bringing up someone who looks a lot like Gabriel Iglesias with slightly more hair to do a land acknowledgement. Oh boy.
This is Lindy Somek, who is from the Saginaw Ojibwe Nation, and she's going to deliver our land acknowledgement today. Lindy.
Bonjour, Lindy Somek, Indigenous.
Boujou. Ah, yes. Now, it's crazy. I just so happen to have the particular Northern Plains and Midwestern Native American books because I studied that in college. Again, when you're on a tribal registry, when that gets confirmed, you do a little bit of learning here. I had a professor in college in Maranatha in Wisconsin who was really excited about this stuff. Jerry Kowinski, really, really excellent professor. I happen to know that the Saginaw Ojibwe tribe has not spoken a universal individual language since before 1840 of their own accord, own tribal votes. So her getting up there and going, boujou, and speaking Simlish. No, again, what you're going to see is another lady wants to get up, cosplay, like Jill Biden with the breakfast tacos, or was it Tim Wall's wife? Who said that her Native American name is talks too much or something? Excellent. Anyway, here's the land acknowledgement.
Kaz, Amigdodam, Saginaw Chippewa Dojaba, Anishinaabe Kwe, and Dow. Good morning, DNC members, friends, and relatives.
The reason that you speak in two languages back and forth when you are in front of a crowd is because there are individuals in that room who speak that language. I know, as someone who speaks fluent Spanish, there have been times, for example, I was talking about today, I would attend the East Delavan Baptist Church. I would attend that particular church service's Spanish-speaking services. And when I did song leading, I would greet the crowd once in Spanish and once in English because there were some who struggled. It was kind of an assimilation thing. Who is she speaking to? Who out there is like, oh man, I feel seen. I of the expansive Ojibwe, Saginaw, and toddler speak language group.
Elizabeth Warren.
Elizabeth Warren's in the crowd.
Let's talk about the land for a second. The DNC acknowledges and honors the Dakota Oyate, the Dakota people, who are the original stewards of the lands and waters of Minneapolis. The Dakota cared for the lands, lakes, and the Wakapatanka.
They did not, by the way. The Dakota tribe did not care for the land at all. They did not. Some of the scarring in the land occurred due to really bad agricultural practices by the Dakota tribe.
Great River, the Mississippi River, for 1,000.
They pooped in the Mississippi River, by the way. They did. Like the Dakota tribe dumped baskets of crap into the Mississippi River. They were one of the tribes. Again, this is written about back in the Lewis and Clark expeditions. They talked about this. Oh, they took care of the land. No.
Thousands of years before colonization. This land was not claimed or traded. It's a part of a history of broken treaties and promises,
including by the Dakota tribe. I'm so sorry. The constant refrain of, oh, Native Americans were all, running around living in peace. The tribe that I am a heritage part of, they committed in the exact same kinds of rape, murder, and conquering that every single Native tribe did since they crossed the land bridge from Russia over to Alaska back in the heyday. I'm sorry. I just don't care about all of this. And by the way, you don't see the DNC then giving up any land. Ben and Jerry's, with their land acknowledgement, they haven't given up the land that is supposed to be tribal land back to the tribe it came from. The constant nonsense. So anyway, thank you to Gabriel Iglesias for getting up in front of everyone and sharing. So this is not the only major, amazing, incredible. So they're also going to triple down. They brought up some random attorney general who says that what we really need to focus on, what Americans need right now, is gender-affirming care for minors. We got to lop off a lot of parts on children, stuff them full of hormones, because they might think they're the opposite sex or some other gender that they made up this morning.
Dude 44 times, and we'll sue him 44 more and 44 more after that. And we have sued him for gender-affirming care. Yes, we are not going to scapegoat our transgender community.
That's not what scapegoating means.
And we have sued him.
To scapegoat, as y'all know, means to blame someone else for a particular crime. Scapegoating, that doesn't make any sense at all. We don't want children to be injected with harmful hormones that cause cancer, sterilization. You don't tamper with the endocrine system like that. But I mean, the guy who looks strangely like Senator Alex Padilla is up there talking.
To stand up for medical research, National Institute of...
I mean, unless that medical research says don't give kids transgender hormone therapy, then you quash that study. Incredible stuff. And then you have Tim Walz. Tim Walz, he's back, ladies and gentlemen. So Kamala Harris, she's, opening suitcases of books next to the bed. Tim Walz, he's mad. And he's mad because in public, he's seeing red hats. Ooh, which is hilarious because this would mean that there are a lot of people around Tim Walz who disagree with him politically, which sends him, again, Mr. Moderate who understands people. He'll get in front of people and say, we got to understand and come together with people, while at the same time thinking that they're super Satan Hitler individuals. Here's Tim Walz.
Think of how easy it would be to be a damn Republican. Oh, what should I wear today? This stupid freaking red hat. What should I say today? I don't know. Just make sure it's cruel.
Make sure it's cruel. All these stupid, awful Republicans in their stupid red hats. Ugh.
Who do we listen to? That guy. Oh, the felon in the White House? Yeah, listen to him and that will be fine. Now he's talking about burning flags. He's going to have flag burning or whatever, because he knows there's a hell of a lot of flags with his picture on it that are going to get burned.
So first of all, very weird segue as to why you're against the flag burning executive order, which we will talk about a little bit later in the show. I don't really think this is going to go the way that he wants it to. It's really sad. Anytime you see a vice presidential, you know how Tim Kaine was Hillary Clinton's VP candidate? Oh, you forgot? Well, now he looks like a professor. He looks like a mix between Doc Brown from Back to the Future with like his hair everywhere and the homeless man outside your local Walmart. Like that appears to be like Tim Kaine's role in the Senate now. No one's inviting him to speak. Tim Walz is just one step before Tim Kaine. Yeah, producer Nick.
I wonder if he knows that the flag was about the American flag, or does he think that all American flags are just very indicative of Trump right now, and that just frustrates him?
A very, very, very good question. Here is Tim Walz talking about waking up in the morning.
The privilege of my lifetime was stand beside someone we know was the most qualified and would have been a fantastic president in a President Harris. And look, we wouldn't wake up every day to a bunch of shit on TV and a bunch of nonsense.
Sorry about that, Allison. I knew that Tim Walz couldn't handle, whatever. Again, he's just so aggravated all the time over, again, the most normal things. Radio crew, we got to send you to commercial. We'll catch you in a second. It's the Tony Kinnett cast here on the Daily Signal. Tim Walz, I love it. So we've got all of the necessary steps so far. We're really mad about trans stuff. We're really mad about land acknowledgements. We're really mad about people wearing red hats. And they're also really mad because of illegal immigrant crime is a focus of the Trump administration. So they trotted out Vera Institute's Insha Rahman to talk about why Americans concerned about migrant crime is dumb. It doesn't even matter. Just ignore it. Pretend it doesn't exist at all.
Issues voters care about. Where does Trump go? Migrant crime, carjackings, the really lurid, awful stuff that is a crazy, crazy visual. Don't take the bait, because most Americans are more worried about how are we going to address mental health issues.
They're not by polling.
The visible homelessness that we see on streets.
Bold move, but also according to polling, no, that's not what Americans are more worried about.
And how do we deal with mental health and other issues that
You just listed mental health. You don't get to list it twice.
drive the sort of random incidents that scare all of us? That's what you should.
Random incident. Crime, just a bunch of random incidents, guys. It happens, like when lightning strikes. It's just completely, totally random. Oh, wow.
Be talking about. That's where you should be focused. Don't take the bait in talking about migrant crime.
Don't take the bait about, again, individuals who can't read road signs doing a U-turn, killing 3 people, and then getting out of the semi looking like they don't care at all. Because that kind of happens all the time over in India. Don't pay any attention to the actual cartel members that took over apartment buildings in Aurora, Colorado. Again, don't pay attention. Whistle past the graveyard is such a beautiful strategy. Producer Nick.
That's why Kilmar beat his wife. He didn't get his therapist session that week.
It really does. It does steam me. So moving along here, Representative Delia Ramirez has also tried taking this particular approach. A little unwise, perhaps.
DC and LA are actually not safer because he deployed the National Guard. It's actually, people are living in less safety. People are scared. He's attempting to do the same thing here in Chicago.
Okay, so she's going to say he's always attempting to send the National Guard to Chicago. Let's talk about that claim for a second here. Los Angeles and Washington, D.C. are less safe because Trump sent in the National Guard. I seem to recall chunks of concrete thrown at police officers' heads in Los Angeles. That's currently not occurring. Washington, D.C. has now gone without a homicide for 10 days, which is a record. Like all the way back to before we actually kept individualized crime statistics for the D.C. area as a metropolitan area. Since D.C. has been considered a metropolitan area, there has not been a stretch of crime in reporting in which murder hasn't occurred in 10 days. Or hasn't been reported in 10 days, we'll be fair, in case they find something, person was killed a couple days ago. So as far as the not being safer, according to the rote, genuine, clear data, and the numerous videos flooding social media, now again, not by angry old liberal college degree white women, but about various communities where individuals are posting videos saying, look, it's safer here, I can walk outside. Now, we'll get in just a little bit to how this is, again, going right for the kneecaps of outlets like Axios. But I do want to point out one beautiful clip from Amy Klobuchar, who is always trying to get the viral clip. But again, Amy Klobuchar looks like every other angry liberal woman you've ever seen. So whenever she speaks, it just looks awful.
Farmer in New Mexico relied on immigrant workers who are too afraid to do it anymore. And we have a message to Donald Trump. Immigrants don't diminish America, they are America.
Okay. Immigrants are America. And her big example is, illegal immigrant farmers. Again, so the slave labor, that's America to you. Very, very good to know. Okay. Again, really, really bad decision. This is not polling well with Americans. Again, the best things the Trump administration has going for it right now are how he's dealing with illegal immigration and how he's dealing with crime. Jeff, USMC, thanks very much for the super chat. Very kind of you. He said, these people need to answer what amount of illegal crime is acceptable. Now, then he says anything other than 0, they should be immediately removed out of public office. Well, I mean, I very much agree with you, but they won't even delineate it into crime committed by illegal immigrants. They'll just say crime in general. They'll say, oh, well, if you look at these statistics, well, actually, you're far more likely to get kicked by a cow in Nebraska than the nonsense, the mental gymnastics they will go through, not to suggest that crime should be dealt with and borders should be preserved. Of course, this will get us over to Mayor Brandon Johnson, which we'll get to in a second. Got to pick up the radio crew. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast. Don't go anywhere.
You're listening to the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
Welcome back to the Tony Kinnett Cast. We were discussing the Trump administration's brilliant maneuver to just let Democrats talk. So Trump floats, just briefly floats. He doesn't send any kind of official letter, says, hey, maybe I'll send the National Guard to Chicago. Maybe I'll send the National Guard to Baltimore. Who knows? I might do it. It's kind of a mess there. which has caused J.B. Pritzker and Mayor Brandon Johnson of Chicago, who's currently under investigation for racially discriminatory loan practices. Because, every Democrat official has either committed, mortgage fraud or racially discriminatory practices at these major city and national levels. So Brandon Johnson gets out in front of the country and has announced that you shouldn't send the National Guard to Chicago. After all, you can't just arrest people and expect that to solve crime. Here's Mayor Brandon Johnson.
We cannot incarcerate our way out of violence. We've already tried that, and we've ended up with the largest prison population in the world.
Okay, so those aren't two things. That's like, you know what? Watermelon doesn't give me a stomach ache. I ate 32 watermelons and I didn't go blind. I go, wait a second here. That you're suggesting totally different things. Oh, a lot of people went to prison after we arrested them. Well, I mean, your prosecutor's letting a lot of people out of jail. I mean,
Without solving the problems of crime and violence, the addiction on jails and incarceration in this country, we have moved past that.
The addiction to jails and incarceration, as opposed to what? This is where they bring out the social workers. Because again, as you know, if someone's breaking into your home, or someone is being assaulted in the myriad number of ways someone can be assaulted, what you really want is the therapist from the first Santa Claus movie, Neil, to walk over and start talking to them about their feelings. Ah, yes, the Obama approach. Producer Nick?
I actually set up my home kind of like the Christmas movie where he throws the bricks off the top of the building.
Oh, Home Alone?
Yeah.
Just suck
set
brick,
traps.
kid. Chucks the brick at him.
All of them are just shooting SSRIs into the intruders' mouths because that's the option there. They're not getting their
clearly
medicine.
More medication. As we all know, the heroin addict outside your local Speedway at 4 a.m, if they were just a little more medicated, they would be happy.
It is racist, it is immoral, it is unholy, and it is...
Unholy? I want the organ to kick in the background.
It's not the way to drive violence down.
I love that he's on his little soapbox about this, given that Mayor Brandon Johnson's Chicago is exceptionally violent. It's hilarious. When Beetlejuice stepped down as mayor of Chicago, I really thought that they couldn't find anyone possibly worse. But yet another weak soy boy dude who's just like, we can't just get out there and arrest people. Come on. Amazing. Where do they find these guys? And how do people in Chicago feel? Well,
the whole neighborhood is just sick of people coming into the neighborhood and acting like they can just come ravage your stores, take what they want to take, and then they try to make you feel like you're wrong for defending your property.
Now, clearly, incarceration is wrong. I mean, that's how the rest of the people of Chicago feel. Best of luck to Democrats for going down this road. Now, there are a few things here that I do believe are worth touching on. So first of all, as for how the legacy media is taking all of this, the political pundit class, because it is important, how the pundit class on the left describes where things are going. Well, that's going to influence heavily who ends up taking the reins in 2028. There's conversation, of course, about AOC, about Wes Moore, about Gavin Newsom. We'll get to all of those guys, but right now, Nate Silver, who was a fairly accurate pollster in the last election, had a moment where he said, you know what, the left has done a lot of really stupid stuff. Maybe they shouldn't do that. It has now been a few months, and Nate has decided that not smoking crack when he writes his analyses is so outdated. So Nate has decided, he said, quote, part of what today's piece tries to reconcile is that when they go low, we go high, has to be seen as a tactical failure for the Democrats. So he argues that the problem the Democrats have had is that they have played by the rules. You've heard this. You've heard this before from people like Kathy Hochul of New York, who've made this claim that Democrats have just been playing by the rules all this time. Again, while these articles are coming out from people like Nate Silver over on his Substack or from the New York Times, there are simultaneous articles being run from the New York Times and Politico. We just touched on this on Top News in 10 from Sunday into today, which say that the Democrats are trying to get in other blue states to gerrymander. But what they have discovered is that in states like Maryland, states like Illinois may not even be able to gerrymander the way that J.B. Pritzker wants them to, because they are already so gerrymandered that convoluting any other way is going to jeopardize blue districts. They have now so far gerrymandered, they have squeezed the fruit so hard, there is simply no juice left to squeeze. And so the argument the Democrats are now going to try to suggest, which is that the Democrats are always playing by the rules and Republicans aren't playing by the rules, so then the Democrats have to suddenly start getting dirty in the politics. The reason you're not actually seeing Democrats act any quote unquote dirtier in politics is they've already been doing all of this. And by the way, one of the organizations that you would never expect to point this out is the Rolling Stone. Rolling Stone magazine put out a poll, which was, who do Americans find are more corrupt? Is it Republicans or Democrats? And Democrats, the average American, found way more corrupt the Democrats than the Republicans. And Rolling Stone's like, man, I don't even see why Americans would believe that. I can't. Oh, well, I'm shocked. And people like Nate Silver will get out there in front of the American people and will suggest, well, I mean, clearly Democrats have just been playing by the rules and they need to stop it. Before Donald Trump stepped into this administration, his second administration, and started signing executive orders like Biden did, like Obama did, the Democrats were comfortable with just throwing orders out left, right, and center. But all of a sudden, Trump does it, and it's, well, wait a second here. When, again, the Biden administration, when the Obama administration went after political opponents, unabashedly, Obama using the IRS to target Christian organizations, Biden going after Trump through Merrick Garland, sending the FBI to raid Melania's underwear drawer, sending the Democrat House to throw individuals in contempt of Congress and then throw them into prison. When political targeting became very, very real, the FBI used to target Christian families who went and spoke at school board meetings. When these things were used as economic, political, legal leverage against Trump, nobody batted an eye. But now, all of a sudden, everyone loses their mind, to quote the Joker from The Dark Knight. So I really do enjoy watching now all of the soft pundit class, and you see this on the right as well. Oh, two wrongs don't make a right. How could you do that? Oh. Now, is everything Trump is doing perfect? No. We're going to talk about the flag burning EO here in just a little bit. There are some minor things that are probably going to stick. But as long as the Democrat Party continues down this road, it is in fact screwed. Alex Thompson over from Axios pointed out that the Democrats are still paying for Kamala Harris' loss to Donald Trump last year. Literally still paying for it economically. The DNC has paid more than $15 million towards the Harris 2024 campaign's expenses in the first 6 months of 2025. The Democrat Party is not raising new money. Kamala Harris is going on her little book tour. The DNC is still in debt. And by the way, the more that it's being exposed from the Kamala Harris and how their financial streams work, essentially how you would donate to the Kamala Harris campaign was through a sophisticated corporate money laundering operation. We're going to talk about that over on the live stream. Radio crew will see you in just a second, right about the time Steve Cortes signs on. It's going to be a good interview. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal. Now, I want to be clear about the money laundering side of things, because you think money laundering, you think, the deepest scummy of the scum. There is a softer level of money laundering, which is, again, definitely trying to avoid typical campaign finance laws and things, but they're softer because they're done in kind of a new way. So there are these influencer firms. Now, I want to make this clear. I have been contacted by some of these influencer firms who have asked the Ministry of Truth social media account that I run over on X to do influencery type things, like posting scam links to people, which I find really, really, really abhorrent. I don't like the idea of like posting scam links, but they're influencer campaigns that try to get you, and not all of them are bad. Again, PR firms exist. You want to get out the word about something. It's not all going to be grassroots. Sometimes you have to astroturf it, fake grass. So what does this mean for Kamala Harris? So the Kamala Harris campaign, the actual campaign, accepted payments through like influencer firms to go through propaganda and endorsements. Now that's new. That's new. Essentially, the Kamala Harris campaign used influencer agencies as surrogates so that the influencer agencies could take payments and then you not have to register that as a political donation. I don't know if that's particularly legal. Again, in the interest of true transparency on this show, I will always try to be very upfront with you when I don't know something. I looked momentarily, amid all of the breaking news economically about this today. I'm not quite sure how legal or illegal this is, but I'm pretty sure that when you do involve a political campaign, pass-through agencies may or may not be strictly legal. According to the article, quote, but the accounting sleight of hand after 2024 has had a number of important effects. For one thing, it served to obscure the extent of Ms. Harris' unpaid bills after her $1.5 billion campaign. The post-election payouts for 2024 expenses have included money for chartered planes, polling, music licensing, and millions in fees to an agency that does online influencer work. So if you use surrogacies for buying and selling, yes, that is legally a money laundering operation. And that looks really, really bad. Now, do Americans care about that? No. But I happen to know that in today's day and age, there is a Department of Justice that is starting to enforce a lot of laws that have gotten the blind eye treatment for a very long time. Now, there's also a lot of stuff about the Electoral College change, and the New York Times freaking out about this. This has to be one of the best New York Times pearl clutches that I've ever seen in my entire life. As you all know, people have been fleeing blue states because they suck, and they have been moving to red states. And in the midst of this, because the Electoral College is based on the population of a state, this means some House seats and some population adjustments are going to change for 2032. And that changes all of the traditional, like the blue wall, the Democrats need to win, the big states, and all of this. We're going to talk about that when we come back during a little bit of bonus Tonus. Right now, we're going to head over to an interview with Steve Cortes, probably one of the better interviews we've done in a while, because NPR is mad at this show over interviewing EJ Antoni in his new role in the Trump administration. So don't go anywhere. We're going to be back in just a second. Trust me, it's going to be stellar. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal.
This is the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
Welcome back to the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal. Hopping right in with Steve Cortes, who understands the shenanigans afoot when the media starts freaking out about yet another appointee or nomination from the Trump administration. This time it's EJ Antoni. Steve, how's it going?
Hey, great, Tony. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So I was a little surprised to see NPR citing our show as to what EJ Antoni in the Trump administration or in the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, that kind of thing, might look like. Where's all of this deep-seated fear coming from?
Right. Well, first, Tony, I think you should wear their scorn as a badge of honor, right, when NPR is coming after you. But here's where I think it's coming from. I think, first, more broadly, permanent Washington continues to freak out every time it sees that the America First revolution, political revolution, actually means it about deconstructing the administrative state. And that we do not believe the power should be concentrated in a bunch of unaccountable, unelected bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. So that's the more broad backdrop. But the specific one to the Bureau of Labor Statistics is that BLS is one of these completely outdated, sloth-ridden bureaucracies that does not produce the data that the Americans need. Meaning, number one, it's not quick enough. In a real-time digital world, their information is way too laggy. But number two,
whoa, Steve, hold on. Before you get to number two, I got to ask you: are you telling me the same government that decided running an entire retirement system out of an abandoned mine in Pennsylvania didn't get this correct? I'm shocked.
Believe it or not, right? I mean, no, and especially given the amount of information that is out there right now. But number two, it's not accurate. I mean, and by the way, you don't have to take my word for that. Simply look at the revisions to previous months' data, which again are already coming out too late, often 3 months after the fact. But then the revisions to previous data, these are massive material revisions and on a very, very regular basis. So when the data is too lagging, it's too slow, too late in a real-time world, and when the data is not believable, when the numbers are simply not accepted by the actual experts. And let me give you some proof of this, by the way. Before I got full-time into politics, Tony, I traded bonds for 25 years. My last position was actually working for Howard Lutnick, who's now Secretary of Commerce, of course. But when he ran BGC Partners and Cantor Fitzgerald, I was chief strategist at BGC Partners. And in the world of bond trading, the high-level, sophisticated world of institutional fixed income money management, nobody, not Steve Cortes, nobody in that world gave much credence to the government statistics. We simply didn't believe them. They were an input. Yes, we considered them, but only within a broad range of other inputs that we consider to be way more reliable, most of them coming from the private sector. For example, on inflation, there's a company called Trueflation right now. They're getting thousands and thousands of inputs in real time every single day and producing inflation data, which I think is far more usable for anyone who really wants to watch the economy, but certainly for money managers whose financial, sort of health depends upon these decisions they make. So the reality is the BLS is a bloated bureaucracy that does not serve the needs of the people. It is not even remotely the kind of barometer and arbiter of economic numbers and statistics that it should be. And here comes E.J. Antoni, an outsider, somebody with a very different perspective, somebody with expertise, and somebody, I think most importantly, with an attitude of urgency who says, hey, the tools are out there in this country. The tools are out there technologically, economically to fix this and to get real-time reads, or at least very quick, efficient reads that are believable and accurate so that good policy decisions can be made with the right numbers. And predictably, what we have is again, a freak out from permanent Washington.
Yeah, and that's kind of the concern along the back lines, that even though some of the major financial institutions that are, again, pushing around millions, billions of dollars a day, they may not rely on some of those government statistics. Other government institutions, for example, the federal chairman and his board of governors do rely on those outdated and, as you said, slothful statistics. So what we get into is perhaps a snowball catastrophic situation where you don't have a Federal Reserve that is even able to react to the economy in time if in case the federal chairman was doing everything above board. It's a
Right.
very everything's built on a previous problem. You got quite a stack.
You do, unfortunately. And and listen, I'm somebody who believes that the current Fed Chairman Jerome Powell is fully politicized and is not remotely a legitimate central banker, meaning that his first interest is protecting institutionally the Fed, secondly, protecting the more general interests of Washington, D.C. as sort of a broad institution, thirdly, maybe, or even further down the line, the prosperity of the American people. But putting that aside, even if he had the best of intentions, even if he had the best of skills in the sphere of monetary policy, if he is only considering official government statistics, you're exactly correct that garbage in, garbage out, you are sure to make bad decisions based on slow, inaccurate information as an input. And by the way, if we look at the history of the Fed, again, don't have to take Steve Cortes' word for this. If you look at the history of the Fed, it has been wrong on every major policy turn for 25 years now. I mean, going all the way back to Y2K and the tech bubble, into the housing crisis, into COVID. It has mismanaged and completely gotten wrong every single crisis. And that's despite having literally hundreds of PhDs on its staff. And so maybe we could use somebody who happens to have a PhD. Yes, he does have credentials, but much more importantly, operates in the real world of economic analysis, E.J. Antoni. And again, not just those credentials and not just that knowledge base, but the attitude of urgency and the belief that as an outsider, that we are there to deliver the very best information in the quickest manner possible to policymakers and to the American people, not to serve the interests of the bureaucracy.
Now, it's the American people part of that really fascinates me, because what we hear from those of us kind of the inside track is that the appearance of certain moves can cause a lot of distrust in future numbers. And, well, we want the American people not to feel as though certain things are being rigged one way or the other. The question I have is about the real impact of this, because any media pundit, again, you have done so much of the media circuit, you know this far better than I do, that you'll have some talking head or an anchor get up and say, the American people really don't trust how this looks. How much does it actually meter out to the Americans, or are they just not going to care? What do you see here?
Yeah, no, I think it does ultimately meter out, even if they don't pay attention to the BLS, even if they've never heard of the Bureau of Labor Statistics. It matters to their life. It matters to their trip to the grocery store. And let me be concrete about this with a tangible example. For example, Janet Yellen, who was both Secretary of the Treasury under Biden and previously chairman of the Fed. So one, in terms of a resume of American finance, it doesn't get much more august than that, right? Somebody who taught at Harvard, got a PhD. She told us time and again throughout 2021 and even into 2022, as it was evident to every single American who goes shopping, that inflation was raging in this country in a systemic way. She said time and again that it was transitory. Those lies, by the way, were occasionally echoed by Fed officials as well. So you had the monetary side of the equation repeating the lie of the fiscal side of the equation.
That's that like negative feedback loop, yeah.
Right, of Treasury. But here's the point. Of course it wasn't transitory. It was entrenched. It was systemic. It was intrinsic in Bidenomics. I think she probably knew better and just lied through her teeth. But either way, whether she didn't know or whether she was lying, either way, the consequences were regular Americans simply couldn't afford their lives. And that is the reality of a system where we have Washington in almost a Pravda-esque way speaking lies to the American people as if it has the imprimatur of truth, and the American people saying, wait a second, that doesn't wash with my own experience. That's not what I'm living. It's not what my pocketbook is showing. It's not what I see at the checkout counter. So to restore believability in public officials, look, we see this across the spectrum, not just finances, public health authorities, for example, who have so little trust now from the American people after the COVID panic. On the financial side of things, not much trust in government numbers, very, very little trust.
None to mention your new documentary on the education and the public education front.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm really excited about this documentary coming out, and it is the imperative of school choice. And we are really trying to expose how badly the government monopoly on public education is not serving Americans, is failing students, failing families. We went and highlighted, though, too, to both decry that system, but then also tell a really positive story. We went to the west side of Chicago, one of the toughest neighborhoods in all of America, and profiled Chicago Hope Academy, which is an incredible Christian school, independent school that's doing amazing work in one of the toughest neighborhoods possible in this country. That school should be getting government funding. Schools like it all over America should be getting government funding instead of funding a system that's largely controlled by a toxic and corrupt teachers union that doesn't have the interests of students at heart, instead rather its own bureaucracy. In some ways, it's kind of similar to BLS. I mean, it's not related, but it is.
Slothful bureaucratic sludge. It really is pervasive. I tell you, Steve, I really wasn't planning on mentioning the documentary until right at the end of the closing tab there. But I mean, it just fit all these bureaucratic institutions that Americans are tired of, because when you who don't pay attention to politics, you don't pay attention to high finance, you don't pay attention to the intense market day-to-day trading analysis, et cetera, when you can look at someone on the TV, like Janet Yellen, for instance, as you said, and say, yeah, she's full of it, she's lying, obviously this isn't transitory, switching out individuals who produce competent results and under promise and over deliver for a change, that's something that does resonate, because it's something I'm not worrying about every day, which again is kind of a nice change of pace.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's what the American people expected from Donald Trump, right? Because he promised that. It's why they voted for him overwhelmingly, not just taking every swing state, sweeping the swing states, but also winning the U.S. popular vote, the biggest Republican election win in at least 2 decades. It was in large part because he promised this kind of significant change, really in a lot of ways, revolutionary change, certainly in terms of Washington, D.C. And it's why he brought in people like RFK Jr., like J.D. Vance as a running mate, and now like E.J. Antoni to take over the data operations, the economic statistical operations of the United States government. So we voted for exactly this kind of disruption. And if Washington, D.C. doesn't like it, well, Tony, that's probably a good thing for the American people.
Very well said. The original bad hombre himself, Steve Cortes. Of course, head over to CortesInvestigates.com. You're going to be glad you did. Thanks again for hopping on with us.
Tony, thank you.
All right, radio crew, I've kept you over the FCC. You'll have to forgive me. We'll see you guys in a second. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal.
You're listening to the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
There are a couple of really good, bad, and ugly things to get to with you guys this evening on a little bit of Bonus Tonus. If you're joining us for the first time, Bonus Tonus is the time that I am not really allowed on FCC clock. To be honest with you, probably they would give it to me if I asked very, 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 very sweetly. But that's, not something that I am super, super worried about. Let's talk a little bit about some of the good, the bad, and the ugly here, because something just about God being really good I'm going to share this with you. First up, J.B. Pritzker was out lecturing the commoners today in Illinois about how Trump is really obsessed with him. And the cameraman then pans to the building that Pritzker is speaking outside of.
We're very pleased about the progress that we're making. I know that I live rent-free in the president's head, and I wish he would spend some time in Chicago so that he could see what I love.
The cameraman pans up, and it's Pritzker standing outside of Trump Tower in Chicago.
City we have. Governor, quick follow-up. What do you do if...
I love it. He's so obsessed with me. That's why I'm standing outside the building with his name on it. Beautiful. Also, I loved this sent in this morning. Apparently, the U.S. Border Patrol is now attending Gavin Newsom's speeches, which is really upsetting Gavin Newsom, which is just class A. I love it. And of course, the angry lady yelling in the midst as well. Just fantastic. I truly enjoy the optics of every single bit of this, because if the Democrat governors simply acted normal and said, we really don't like this, I think we need to return to a state of normalcy. That's what Americans were hoping for. And so therefore, I don't like that. I think it'd be going over a lot better if they also admitted to their own sins. But instead it's, well, how could he do the stuff that we were doing? And also, how could he possibly arrest the slave labor that got here illegally and is also probably doing some human trafficking and other stuff? Axios is really upset about Washington, D.C. They said, quote, President Trump is molding D.C. into his own personal Epcot, a political theme park where troops keep the peace. The White House glitters like Mar-a-Lago, and the museums answer to MAGA. So they're very upset about the museums answering to MAGA because the Smithsonian is no longer allowed to say that only white supremacists cite their sources, or that being on time, being punctual is white supremacy. That's answering to MAGA. Ooh, yeah. I mean, yeah, it would be in fact great again to see the Smithsonian focusing on history and science instead of what some barista thinks is white supremacy. Then, of course, the White House glittering like Mar-a-Lago. Why is that a slam? Is glittering, like, you mean like they washed it? Was it like the beige house before? I don't know what they mean by that. I've read the article too. I'm not quite getting that one. My favorite though is where troops keep the peace. Oh no, poor Axios journalists. Not people getting stabbed and shivved and carjacked and shot and hit and mugged every day in Washington, D.C. Oh man, if there's not a little poop line in the roads, is it even an American city? Oh, the horror. It's just like Epcot.
Yeah, the horrible white supremacist society. A country full of people who don't hate the country, who arrive to work on time safely because they're not stabbed or shot on their way to work.
That's just unconscionable. That is just not... I won't stand... Rosa Parks didn't sit in the back of the bus for people not to get stabbed outside of Union Station. Right? Martin Luther King, we all remember when he went to Washington, he's like, I have a dream that people will be getting stabbed right over there. Remember? Yeah, remember? We choose not to go to the moon because it is easy, but because there's some guy getting mugged down at Union Station. I mean, come on, classic American quotes. Come on. I mean, what are you going to do? I guess I'm just a little bit of an old softie.
There's nothing to fear but the fear of being shot or stabbed.
The only thing we have to fear is not getting poop on my shoes. I mean, again, Franklin Delano Roosevelt really had some bangers. All right, now for a little bit of the bad here. Trump did sign an executive order about the American flag, and it's getting a lot of press. So here's President Trump signing this executive order.
And what the penalty is going to be, if you burn a flag, you get 1 year in jail, no early exits, no nothing. You get 1 year in jail. If you burn a flag, you get, and what it does is incite to riot. I hope they use that language, by the way. Did they?
Yeah, incitement is
incite to riot.
Okay. So the President of the United States has issued an executive order saying that you are not allowed to incite a riot by burning the American flag. Everyone immediately ran out, clutched their pearls, started yelling everywhere. Now, here's the deal. Does the President of the United States have the authority to ban the burning of the United States flag? No. The Supreme Court has already ruled that burning the United States flag is a form of speech. Do I think it should be a form of speech? No, I think that ruling was incorrect. Do I think that any other flag in this country, any other flag other than the United States flag that someone should be able to burn? I mean, if it's at your house, it's in bad taste, sure. But, I don't really see that being a necessity. Now, out in public, setting a flag on fire in a group in order to incite a riot, that's an interesting legal argument. Do I think it's going to hold water? No. Now, everyone out there saying that should you burn the American, like if you point this out, you must want the American flag burnt. No, if you burn the American flag, you are an awful, horrible, stupid person. Willingly ignorant who really shouldn't be here. Now, that said, just because something is legal does not make it moral. I have the legal right to flip off anyone at any time. Now, I mean, I guess that you could suggest that there are times that might be inciting something. I can flip other people off. I can use gross language whenever I so choose. But just because without screaming it outside near children, that can be disturbance of the peace. But so can burning a flag out in the middle of public. If you're out in the middle of a park and there's kids, out there hanging out with their families, maybe a Washington, D.C. park now that people aren't getting stabbed and shivved in them, little family picnic. You can't just go burn a flag next to a child. That's endangerment. You can't do that. That's criminal recklessness as well. So as for burning the flag itself, again, political stunts like that, I think are morally wrong. This country is a phenomenally wonderful place. I understand why Trump hates it. Is this something that the president has the ability to sign an executive order for? No. It's not in his constitutional authority. Do I think he means well? Yeah. And by the way, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, and even George W., they signed performative executive orders. A lot of them. I hate that about our country. I hate that. Because right now, by the way, my biggest gripe with Trump on planet Earth, the only big one that I have, is that he's currently not enforcing the TikTok ban. Congress passed a law, and he's not enforcing it. I hate prosecutorial discretion. I despise prosecutorial discretion. You remember that when Massey said, well, the Capitol Police and the National Guard, they should just not enforce federal gun laws in Washington, D.C. There is no one on earth more than yours truly who wants to carry in Washington, D.C. But I will remind you, it's illegal. I'm not allowed to do so. Is it an unconstitutional? Absolutely. Do I think the Supreme Court should overturn it? Absolutely. Do I think that Congress should pass a law granting people the constitutional right to carry on federal property? Absolutely. But again, just saying, all right, new administration in town, we're going to not enforce all of the laws I don't like. That disincentivizes people to care about the legislature. I want people to give a rip about their congressman. That's what I'm looking for. So again, I understand the sentiment. I appreciate it. I really do. However, do I think that Trump really has the authority to do that? I just don't. The inciting a riot language is very interesting. But again, it's an executive order that isn't necessarily a law that he can enforce. The president can't just declare something illegal. That actually does have to have some congressional stuff behind it. Producer Nick, did you have something?
As a bit of a rebuttal with your own phrasing, though, I feel like it's more of a move in the intention of having Democrats defend it. They may go the route of saying, oh, this is a legal route of enforcing this law. You can't just use an EO to make a law.
They're just going to start burning the flag to show like how tough they are.
But in the end, yeah.
Again, and to that end, that's why I said well-intentioned, good political move, forcing Democrats to take the really stupid decision.
The party of the flag burners.
Right. Which like they're doing with Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Politically, yes. However, there is the idea that the Trump administration has momentum, and the last thing you want is for the court to come in and essentially say, well, because the presidency has become kind of a constitutional monarch, therefore we're going to lean into it. There are a few things that I would say pause on just a smidge, not because I'm against playing by rules the other side is playing with, but because we currently have the power to restrict some of those kinds of actions. Like Congress and the Supreme Court and the federal courts theoretically should be using some of this time, but they'll be getting back from August recess soon. So there's something else that I really, really don't care for as well. And this is something that even some allies have been supporting. So, here was the Axios article. We'll get to Tim McBride in a second. Okay. So there was a post that went out from this person named Still Boneless. All right. And there's a big debate going on that's going to get bigger about what makes a person an American. And so there is a How American Are You graphic. And at the top it says grade A, and it has the United States is a country flag with or before the Union Jack, before the red line delineate with the Welsh in. But anyway, the British ensign up in the top, in the canton, and then the American flag. It says Grade A American, colonial old stock, 1607 to 1789. And then there's Grade B, Grade C, and Grade D, and they get more faded as though they are less valuable as you go down the list. How American are you? Antebellum stock. Did you come in from 1789 to 1861? And then Grade C, are you an Ellis Islander American? And a lot of American immigrants did not come in via Ellis Island, but 1861 to 1945. And then, or are you a Grade D American? Again, like, grades of eggs, like worse as you go down. You're a new arrival, and I have to hold my computer screen up. 1945 to present. Okay. So, this is stupid. This is stupid. Take your ridiculous caste system back to India. America doesn't do that. The argument, which is fettered, putrid nonsense, that the American identity is boiled down to when you got here, is not what being an American is about at all. Americanness, what makes you an American is two things: citizenship and assimilation. There are, believe it or not, groups of Americans who have been here a heck of a long time and have not assimilated into society. David Hogg's ancestors, over on the left, right? They got here. He can trace his lineage back to the American Revolution. That does not make him more of an American than someone whose ancestors got here escaping from Cuba and are aggressively patriotic. There is a group on the right that is not just populist, but has started to become racially identitarian. And there are some soft peddlers who I know. One of the individuals, for example, from Postmillennial and Human Events, Jack Posobiec, was amplifying this all over. Well, how could you say that someone doesn't agree with this? It is a stupid argument. For number one, because Jack's last name is Posobiec. I would like to remind you that there was a time in this country when having certain kinds of last names was not very popular. Number two, his wife, who is a lovely person, is an first-generation immigrant from Eastern Europe. Again, assimilation and citizenship makes you an American. Now, if you come here and you have citizenship but you don't assimilate, I would argue you are less of an American morally. Why would you come here if you do not want to assimilate to American culture? And in the same way, if you come here illegally and you assimilate, but you aren't a citizen, you came here, I don't want you here either. Come in the right way. The idea that because, and it really does frustrate me, because it's kind of a Gen Z issue more than it is a boomer issue. The baby boomers don't have this issue because they recognize this kind of racial identitarianism. The idea that, well, I come from European stock. I will remind you that the European nobility was highly incestuous and that America was founded free of the noble class that all slept with each other. We're not Habsburgs. Europe sucks. Oh, well, I'm better because the white people built cultural history. The Judeo-Christian, or if you just want to say the Christian ethic, whatever. I'm not even going to touch on that debate for a minute here. If you want to say the Christian Protestant ethic forged America, absolutely fine with that. That is 100% true. There were, however, wealthy elites who sat on the East Coast and did nothing, while many of my relatives forged a life in the middle of the country and the west part of the country as manifest destiny took place. The idea that your worth as an American comes down to how long you've been here or what color you are. And by the way, based on that, the idea that, well, actually it's these shadowy groups of people who are responsible for all of my problems is the exact same thing that the left does. The exact same thing that they tell young black men and women. Well, there's actually this shadowy group of white people who's always been in control, who's always been in power, and they're responsible for all of the pain and the ills that you face. By the way, none of this is an argument in favor of illegal immigration. None of this is an argument that we should just be accepting boatloads of legal immigrants from people and places and peoples who don't want to be part of the United States. I think Matt Walsh had an excellent comment recently when he posted that a major epidemic, especially in middle America, are people coming over from India, buying up mom and pop American businesses. I grew up near a town called Sulphur Springs, Indiana, teeny tiny town. Next to it on 36, there's this little place called Mount Summit. There was a little Mount Summit Family Mart that my dad would take me to every single time we drove through Mount Summit. And it was this wonderful little mom and pop shop. They couldn't stay open through the financial crisis. And an Indian family moved in and bought it out. Now, I've never met the Indian family, but things have changed. There's a bunch of signs in the window now that's more towards like CBD oil and other kinds of stuff like that. And it is, in fact, an epidemic, that there are other cultures that are moving in and are buying out American stuff. I agree. That is a problem. But the idea that if someone comes over from India and they assimilate to American culture and they get their citizenship legally, that makes them less of an American. Just going to point out, there have been a lot of people who have bled and died for this country of different colors from different places. We're going to start getting into heritage arguments and things like that. Part of my family's been here since the 1400s, and that Native American argument is ridiculous. By the way, some of my Native American ancestry aided the swamp fox in rebelling against the British. The place, there's a far more crass thing that I would prefer to say, but I won't, because it's a more of a Generation Z argument. But the fact that someone's mother chose to have sex with someone in a particular piece of territory, and that makes you a better person, is stupid. It takes very little effort to get pregnant. And the idea that, well, my mom waited to have sex until she made it over to Virginia is stupid. It's a stupid argument. And you can have conversations about immigration and about cultural assimilation and about what a society looks like and believes and who we want to reach out with immigration things for and what assimilation means. Who enforces it? Does the government enforce it? Does the local community enforce it? Does your local church enforce it on a micro-social level? How does that occur? That's a good question. But the idea of, well, you're a grade C American is critical race theory nonsense. And if you make this kind of an argument, I understand that right now, it's spicy to talk about certain things. And, we talked about this when Elise was on. The media does such a heavy amount of lifting to suggest whenever there is a crime committed by a certain color of people, that it's now edgy to say, looks like a crime where they've said the word youths again. I wonder the color of the individual that committed the crime. It's edgy to get out there and say, how the media is going to lean on one side of the race thing. Don't make the mistake of suggesting that therefore the answer is to suddenly be racist the other way. That isn't how this works. Clarence Thomas, a black man, is far more intelligent than Gavin Newsom could ever hope to be. The idea that because someone is from Cuba and they got here in the second half of the 20th century, Marco Rubio is a lot smarter than Margaret Brennan. Don't do this. Don't go down this road. It's just not worth it. And by the way, I do believe in this because I was talking, this is actually a concern. And like on the right side of the aisle, there are some internal conversations happening now over what to do with this kind of crew. I'll say this as a balm for those who might be nervous about, this conversation and the way it's heading. A lot of individuals who may have flirted with this side of the aisle since they have made it into the Trump administration have moderated considerably, and we see a more ready return to Teddy Rooseveltian, Calvin Coolidge-style Reagan conservatism. Not the corporate kind of what some would call neocon conservatism, but the classical Americana kind that's good, that's worthwhile, that is about assimilation and citizenship. Number two is kind of a balm. There are a lot of bots on social media that are echoing and amplifying these particular points. And it just so happens that a lot of these individuals, you say, where does this kind of philosophy come from? Like India, Pakistan, the caste system? A lot of these accounts have Pakistani IP addresses and are being funded by groups from Qatar, according to Twitter coughing up the data itself, or X coughing up the data itself. That shows that a lot of this is just simply trying to get the United States to do major pendulum shifts. And it's just not as big. That should be encouraging. So, last but certainly not least, there's the awkward Tim McBride. in his dress. Tim McBride is still to this day posting about how brave he is for using the women's bathroom. So he posts Here I am using a women's restroom in North Carolina that I'm technically barred from being in. They say I'm a pervert. Well, they say I'm a man dressed as a woman. Yeah. They say I'm a threat to their children, to their innocence. Yes, absolutely. They say I'm confused. Yeah. They say I'm dangerous. The potential to be, sure. And they say, accepting me as a person, I have fought my life to be seen and reflect the downfall of a once great nation. I'm just a person. We're all just people trying to pee in peace. Well, you're not trying to pee in peace because you're taking a picture of yourself in the women's restroom where people try to pee in peace. Again, the Democrats' desperation to double, triple, quadruple, quintuple down on this is not going to go the way that they think it is. It's just not. There's no momentum behind it anymore. The era of hyper identity politics has lost its savor and its touch with the American people. Cracker Barrel has now come out, for example, to suggest they're sort of sorry, but not really sorry. And people aren't having it. So they say, our promise to you in the last few days have shown us anything. It's how deeply people care about Cracker Barrel. We're truly grateful for your heartfelt voices. And in essence, there's like they release. I'm not going to read the entire thing. They release a statement which basically says, we're not changing the logo. We understand you're upset. Old Uncle Herschel, the founder of Cracker Barrel, he's still going to be in menus and on the restaurant and stuff, but they're not promising, anything like that. A little bit of breaking news here at the very end here. According to a couple of news sources, we can now confirm that President Trump says he is removing Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook. I believe she's currently fighting some allegations of mortgage fraud. Is that correct? So we'll bring you a little bit more on that tomorrow. That's according to CNBC. We'll talk about some of this stuff again more tomorrow. We're kind of into the later side of bonus Tonus. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening. We'll be back real soon. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated and first on 93 WIBC. Take care.